Hey guys, I'm been singing Someone Like You but Other. I hope you like it, you enjoy. I'm Sarah Avila, and whoever ask me by chat. If you like it, please put in chat down. What do you think about this? And if you don't like it, well, you have to put I don't like it. Okay. I hope you like it, you enjoy, and you put chat page in there, okay? But good things, not bad things. No, whatever you want. And well, says this is my how to say it. I don't do it like the same of the real song, but I do it like different. Yeah. Well, I hope you like it, you enjoy. You will try again to enjoy it, and that's it. If you think that I'm beautiful, no. If you think that you like it, you can put in the chat or in the comments. Would you like? And well, what do you like to let me better, that I do better? You put, no, I like this, I think you have to be better in blah 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 blah. Okay, I think I have to be better. I don't know. Well, if you will put in chat page whatever thing, I will say we'll answer. World, please help me. Okay, I'm gonna sing a little bit of. Can be. Rolling in the deep, or yep, rolling in the deep. May have to be here. There's a fire starting in my heart, reaching a fever pitch that is bringing me up the jar. Finally, I can see you crystal clear. Go ahead and sell me out and I'll lay your bed. See how I live with every piece of you. Don't underestimate the things that I will do. There's a fire starting in my heart, reaching a fever pitch that is bringing me up the jar. The scars are built to remind me us, 'cause they keep me thinking that we almost had it all. The scars are built to remind me us, 'cause I can't help feeling we could have had